We're going to trigger the Alpine Stars Tech Air system, but we're doing it manually. This cannot be done in normal circumstances. We have a lead from the back of the airbag system to the laptop where Jenny is over there, and she is going to trigger it, and it will go off, and you'll be able to see what it's like when the airbag goes off. She's only going to trigger it when I say now. Oh. I didn't say now. I said you trigger it when I say now, and I haven't said now. The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Great at adventure.
Hello and welcome to Adventure Bike TV. Now, last month was actually our 50th birthday, but we didn't want to celebrate it because we knew there was something special coming this month. I just can't for the life of me remember what it was. Anyway, on with the bike review.
All mounting brackets are polyurethane lined to minimize noise and vibrations. Metal Mule, engineered to be different. Proud sponsors of the bike reviews on Adventure Bike TV.
For this month's bike review, we've been invited to KTM's press day for the 1290 and the 1090 Adventure R at Sweetlam. Plus, we get the UK's first look at the 790 Adventure. We reviewed the 1290 and the 1090 Adventure R versions of these bikes 18 months ago, purely on tarmac, and so we jumped at the opportunity to review the R versions on a totally off-road venue.
Let's go!
KTM proudly described the 1290R as the most powerful off-road travel enduro and the 1090R as the purest off-road travel enduro. Well, we'll get back to the power and the purity a bit later, but both machines share the words off-road travel enduro, and that's the perfect summary of the difference between these R versions and the S versions we tested back in early 2017. They are both most certainly adventure travel bikes, but they are very focused on off-road enduro riding. And anyone that's seen clips of Chris, Birch and friends on YouTube will know just what they are capable of. It's reasonably easy to play spot the difference with both our models from their road-oriented brothers. The spoke-laced 21 and 18-inch set of wheels, knobbly tyres, extra suspension, travel orange trellis frame and matched orange crash bar make it a bit like seeing the difference between a Ford Focus ST and an RS. At a very quick glance, you might not see it, but look for longer than a second and you immediately go, oh yeah, got it. There's quite a lot of spec on these two bikes which is similar and which reflects their off-road travel pedigree, such as the WP suspension with 220mm of travel front and rear, combined with 48mm WP upside down front forks, which will soak up all the bumps in your favourite trail. The speed that you can ride open stretches is also helped by the PDS shock absorber, which provides more progressive internal damping characteristics. Apparently it also helps with jumping, but I don't think my efforts at leaving the ground really stretched it that much. Both bikes also carry 23 litres of fuel and have the same steering head angle, wheelbase, ground clearance and seat height. KTM have also worked on making both bikes adjustable for different riders' style and size. The windshield, handlebar, foot pegs and levers are all easy to tailor to your specific needs. But of course, these are both also different machines. A monstrous 160 horsepower is available on the 1290 and a very handy 125 horsepower on the 1090. And despite many visual similarities, you will see some big differences on the cosmetics. The 1290, you get all the new LED light setup and the TFT display. The lack of TFT cockpit display really doesn't bother me on the 1090 though. In many ways, it plays to the description of being pure. But do not think for one moment that the 1090 is the poor cousin or a weedy smaller brother. In many ways, the 1090 is the logical balance between the outgoing 1190 Adventure R, the 1050, and the old and well-loved 990 Adventure. It has 30 more horses than the older 1050, 20 more than the legendary 990, same weight as the 990, and 7 kilos lighter than the 1190. There is much to like about the 1090R. And a final word on weights. The 1290R tips the dry scales at 229 kilos versus 216 for the 1090. You will notice a difference as both bikes are swung off their side stands, but it's not huge. Both bikes also, very importantly, sweep the board in terms of weight against their closest rivals. Talk briefly about electronics. You just can't get away without it on these bikes. The 1290 has a semi-integrated ABS system which applies some rear with the front until you go into off-road mode, when it stays for the front but disappears on the rear for maximum slidey corners and ultimate showboating. The lean angle sensors work for both the traction control and the ABS. The traction control itself varies with the riding mode. Confused yet? It's just the way of all these big adventure bikes nowadays. The 1090 electronics package is a little simpler than the 1290. No cornering system and no semi-integrated ABS, but still ride by wire throttle and all the ABS and traction control that goes with it. I mentioned at the start that KTM described the 1290 Adventure R as the most powerful off-road travel enduro and the 1090 as the purest off-road travel enduro. I don't doubt the first for one moment, but is the 1090 the purest? It's pretty close. I want to finish with a point that we get asked about a lot. It is all well and good talking about the off-road capability of these bikes in hushed tones of amazement whilst you watch Chris Birch and co on YouTube ride them like they are 250 enduros. But back in the real world, can you really use these bikes as off-road machines? Well, you've only got to see on Facebook and YouTube just how many of us mere mortals are riding them across trails, in rally events and even across parts of the Trans-Euro Trail to appreciate that whilst they are not skinny 250 trail bikes, they are most certainly exceptionally capable off-road travel enduros. So we've been riding the 1290 and the 1090 Adventure Rs all day on nothing but gravel, a little bit of grass and a little bit of wet. And three things have struck me, and it's about speed, slow stuff and electronics. In terms of speed, the more I've ridden these on the gravel tracks, the more my confidence has grown. And particularly on the really, really loose and slightly rutted stuff, I was a bit tentative to start with, but every minute your confidence grows, and I'm sure it'll be the same for anybody riding these bikes. In terms of slow speed stuff, and you'd have seen from when I was riding around the skills course, they just suck up everything. The big bumps, the tight stuff, the tricky things, the seesaw. The only limitation was me, not the bikes. And lastly is the electronics. Now you can turn this into off-road mode, but that still leaves a form of ABS and traction control. And I did try riding it without those two things, thinking, well, off-road, you're better off without them. And you know what? The electronic systems are so good that actually I was better off leaving those electronic systems on and just letting the bike do its job. And would I have either of these two in my garage? Of course I would. Now I remember what was so special about this month. It was a double header review between the 1290 and the 1090. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's a 790 review. It's a very special day for me, for the adventure motorcycling world, because it's this weekend that the 790 Adventure has been seen in the UK for the first time. This is a prototype bike, so it's not exactly the same as the bike that's going to be seen for sale very late this year or early part of next year. It's got some parts that we know are going to be different. So it's got a rally setup on top, but we are reliably assured it's going to have a TFT display. This bike has been designed from the ground up as an off-road machine for adventure riders. So it's got WP suspension all round, and it's going to have a really clever set of electronics on it. The centre of gravity is going to be really low because the fuel tanks are down here, and we have been asked what these bulges are down at the bottom. Well, that's a fuel tank, and down here is a protection. So it's not going to have any protection in terms of crash bars. These are going to be steel plates, and that will be protection. It's also been designed with a big fuel tank range. I think they're reckoning about 400 kilometres, so absolutely an adventure bike, not something with a teeny tiny range. I think it is just a spectacular looking machine. KTM have got an uprated specification on the ABS that will be coming out on this bike. Now, in terms of horsepower, they haven't told us what it's going to be yet, but it's based on the 790 Duke engine, which produces 105 horsepower, so it's going to be probably a little bit less than that. But it's going to be a beast. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Tie-down loops to allow extra luggage space are set at a height to ensure the lock is protected from damage. Metal Mule, engineered to be different. Proud sponsors of the bike reviews on Adventure Bike TV.
And in fact, I'm so excited, I'm going to spend the whole show sitting next to it. Now it's time for top riding tips. Welcome back to Top Riding Tips. Now last month we were looking at riding on different types of gravel and shale. This month we're going to be looking at something else which I find very challenging, which is riding across big rocks. So Mark, riding across big rocks.
Yeah, it is challenging. You need to have your wits about you, and you need the standing position on the bike to be correct, so you can keep the lowest centre of gravity you possibly can. Which we'll be doing later on obviously, but you need to be very cautious, and you need to be in a high gear. You do not want to be in first gear, because the slightest throttle action will jump the bike and make the bike feel agitated. So you need to be in a higher gear, loads of back brake to keep the front end loaded, and loads of clutch, so you can keep nice steady movement and momentum with the bike to try to keep it all under control.
So is that lots of back brake in terms of dabbing it?
Well, what we try to do here, we try to just load the back brake lightly, just to push a bit of weight onto the front end to make the front end come to you a little bit more.
Okay. And are there any kind of major differences in terms of my body positioning to being on the level or up or down?
Well, no, you just need to have quite a lot more bend in your legs and let the bike just move around you a little bit more. And that's a good thing to practice when you're out and about, which you'll find out later.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Let's go and play at it.
Let's go. Okay.
So we're about to come and do some rocky obstacles.
Yeah.
I can't see too much of them, which isn't helping.
No.
Because it's mist.
No.
But yeah.
Might not be a bad thing because there's some big boulders down there.
Yeah.
It's a very, very steep drop in. Okay, so you need to have your wits about when you get to the bottom of that little hole.
Yeah.
If you have to put your feet down, don't worry about it. Just get your momentum back, feet up, and ride it out.
Yep.
You're going to go round to the left, and then you'll just see a little hop out on your right-hand side. Just compose yourself to come back out of the gully.
Okay.
So I'll do it first. Okay, and just try to be in control.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
From moving in straight away. Steady, 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 steady. Too fast. Wow, you got away with that. Slow down, nice and steady. Beautiful. Keep your head up, keep looking to your exit. Nice. Very good. In fact, that's excellent. Well done, Graham. Look to your exit on the right there now. Well done, mate. Okay, mate. Really well done.
Thank you.
That drop off is a good 12 foot, and that was excellent. A little bit more advanced than we would normally do, but we've done stuff over the past few months, so this is no surprise to you. Nice coming down because you were moving, the momentum was pretty much carried all the way till you just hit that big boulder down there, which just offset you a little bit, but wow. That was absolutely brilliant. Well done, mate.
Thank you. Okay, well, over the last several months I can feel my confidence improving, and hopefully it was showing there because I really enjoyed myself there. Next month we're going to be doing crossing water. Of course, there'll be more top riding tips next month. Now it's time for Adventure Advice with Claire. She has been around the world on a KTM, but it wasn't as nice as this one.
Hi there and welcome to Adventure Advice, your monthly AA meeting with me, Claire, from Expedition 52. Now this month we're going to be talking to you about carnets. Not particularly exciting. We did try and jazz it up by introducing Monkey, but he got a little over amorous and we had to cut him. Have a look. So unfortunately, Monkey will not be joining us and you're just left with me, but hopefully I can make this as simple as possible for you to be able to fully understand what a carnet is. So let's start from the very beginning. What is a carnet? So a carnet is a document that allows you to enter a country and leave a country with your vehicle without having to pay any customs or fees or taxes. The reason that you actually need this is because in essence, there's some people that might want to sneak into a country with their vehicle, flog it, make a quick buck, don't pay any taxes and fees, and countries don't want you to do that. So it just prevents you from doing that. So this is what an internal page of a carnet document looks like. When you reach a border, the customs people will sort out filling in this section, rip it off and keep it, and then when you leave, they'll fill out this section, rip it off and keep it. At the same time, you'll have the import and export filled in up here, and if you don't have this bit and this bit filled in correctly, they could chase after you and get your money. So if you're looking at traveling through any of Asia, Africa or South America, it's highly likely that you will need one. For more details though, do take a look at www.expedition52.com/carnets. There are a list of countries on there. They do change daily, so make sure you check with your carnet issuer to confirm. So where can you get yourself a carnet? Now, each country has a different carnet issuer. So if you go to www.fia.com, this has the full list of countries for you to be able to find a carnet issuer for yourself. For the purposes of this segment though, we're going to be looking at the UK issuer CARS, which is the Classic Automotive Relocation Services Company. That's carseurope.net. We'll hopefully have a look at them and see what their kind of charges are and fees are for you to be able to get your carnet. Speaking of which, how much is your carnet? Now, you have two options when getting a carnet. You can either get an insurance indemnity, which in the short run is actually a lot cheaper, but you only get £250 back after you hand back your carnet, or you can go for the deposit option, which tends to be a lot more expensive, but you do get the full deposit back minus a £500 fee. So if you're looking at the insurance indemnity option, on average, you're going to be looking at something about £700 to £3,500. But bear in mind, you do get only £250 of that back. Whereas if you go for a deposit option, you're probably looking at a start price of around about £2,000 to £3,000. That's a deposit, all the way up to 12 grand. But you will get that fully back minus a £500 fee. So how is your carnet actually calculated? This is where it can get a little bit complicated, but we'll try and keep it as simple as possible. There's three main factors to consider. Number one, how many countries you're going through which require you to have a carnet. That will actually dictate how many pages you need in your carnet document. Now, it costs around about £210 for a 5-page carnet document, and it goes up to a price of, I believe, just checking here, £250 for a 25-page document. So the more pages that you need, or the more countries you're going to go through, the higher the cost of your carnet document you require, which is a one-off payment. The second thing you need to consider is the cost of your vehicle. The higher the value of your vehicle, the more expensive your carnet is going to be. And then the third and final thing that you need to consider is the countries that you're traveling through. Now, this is where it can get a little bit confusing, but we are going to try and do a little bit of a visual representation to hopefully explain a little bit as to how it all works. In essence, a country will say to you, I would like to be able to have X amount of your vehicle back should you not obey the laws of this carnet, i.e. if you don't leave the country. They normally do this by putting a percentage against the value of your vehicle. So some countries might want you to be able to pay them back 150% the value of your vehicle. Whereas there's other countries like Egypt that will ask for you to be able to put down and pay back 800% the value of your vehicle if you do not leave Egypt with your vehicle, which is a huge amount, huge amount. But like I say, let's do a visual representation to try and make this a little bit easier for you to see. So let's say you're on your motorbike and your motorbike is worth around 10k, and you decide that you're going to go through Egypt, which, as I said before, they expect 800% the value of your vehicle to be put down or available should you not leave the country with your vehicle. So in essence, they can reclaim from you £80,000. Fortunately, your carnet issuer does not require you to put down such hefty amounts. What they do is they have underwriters who take into consideration where you're going and the risks that are involved, and after boshing some figures together, request a smaller amount they deem suitable. So for this trip, the UK carnet issuer will be looking at around £2,500 for the insurance indemnity, bearing in mind again that you only get £250 back, and around £8,000 for the deposit, which is fully refundable except £500. So let's take a look at the same scenario but going through South Africa. So if you're on your bike that costs £10,000 and you go through just South Africa, they only ask for 150% the value of your vehicle to be available. So in total, £15,000. But the carnet issuer in the UK, the insurance indemnity, they'll only ask for £1,500 up thereabouts, with only £250 refundable, or a deposit of £3,500, which is fully refundable except £500. Please bear in mind though that these are only approximate figures. There's one other thing to consider as well, is that even though you're paying less of amount of money towards the carnet issuer for be it the insurance indemnity or the deposit, if you don't play by the rules, and if you do sell your vehicle in one of these countries or not leave according to the time frame or whatever it is, that country, that customs department can still pursue you personally for the full amount that they would like. So again, if you look at Egypt, if they're looking for £80,000, they might reclaim from the carnet issuer that little amount you've paid them, but then legally they can come find you and take that money, which is really sucky. Big boo. So don't do that. That's a bad idea. Bad. So how long does a carnet actually last? A carnet document ordinarily lasts up to 1 year. Now there are a couple of exceptions to that, and you're looking at Iran and Pakistan, which are only 3 months only, and India, which is 6 months only as well. So if your year is coming to an end with your carnet, you can apply for an extension. This is kind of normal if you're traveling through Africa and Australia, and extensions are quite easy to get, but make sure you apply well in advance. It has been known as well that you can get extension when traveling through Indonesia, but again, it's not so easy, so do give yourself a good couple of months prior to the extension needing to be kind of released for you to be able to get that. There will be some additional fees. They might only just be minor ones. However, that is something to consider. If you've got a deposit, this will be able to be ported, but if you've got an insurance indemnity, unfortunately, you have to pay the full amount again. So how long does it take for you to get your carnet issued to you? It ordinarily takes approximately a month to send out to you after you've paid the invoice for your carnet. Now again, make sure you do this maybe 6 weeks in advance so you're 100% sure that you've got that document in your hand. If you are in a hurry and you need it a bit quicker, you can get it with an express fee of £125, and that should be with you within about 10 days. So one of the questions we had from our viewers was, what happens if your carnet is lost or stolen? First things first, try your best to avoid this from happening at all costs possible. If, however, it is stolen, oh, that's super sucky. However, what you need to do is contact your carnet issuer as soon as possible. They will then contact the FIA, who will blacklist your carnet. During this process as well, they will issue a new carnet, which is an exact replica of it. So the only thing that will change is the carnet number on it. The rest of it will be the same. So the length of time you had remaining on your original one, that will be the same. And all the countries that you were planning on entering, that will stay the same as well. You cannot alter these at all. Now, if you've paid a deposit, there is a chance you might be able to port that across to the new carnet. If you've paid an insurance indemnity, however, you will have to pay that in full again. This is why you must guard it with your life. Try your best not to lose it. The only other question that we got asked as well is what happens if your vehicle is stolen or otherwise written off. Again, this would be a horrific thing to happen, and we would really hope that didn't happen. But if that is the case, then make contact with the police in that country as soon as possible. Get a reference number or an accident number, and then put that back to your carnet issuer. You should be entitled to your full deposit back if that is the case. Again, with your insurance indemnity, however, you will not be able to reclaim anything other than the £250, and that's from the UK cars insurance issuer. So this month I only have 2 major tips for you. The first one is to take photographs of your document as you enter and as you leave every single border. Also take photographs of all the documents they issue as well. This is particularly important if you have a deposit on your carnet, because you need to be able to provide proof if you lose your carnet in order to be able to get your deposit back or put onto another carnet. So photograph. It's an easy thing to do, just a quick one on your phone camera, job done. Second tip for you is to be able to scan your carnet document and put it on a USB stick. Why do people do this? Just in case you need to know the details and you lose it.
What?
To put the details on a USB stick?
Yeah, for that reason.
Okay. Second tip is to get your document, scan it and chuck it on a USB stick. Also, if you can, upload it to like a cloud or otherwise Google Drive or something like that. So if you're unavailable to pull up those documents, if they're needing to be pulled up, then some family or friends are able to do that on your behalf. Other than that, that's all I can tell you about Carnets today. If you need more information, do go to www.expedition52.com/Carnets. Thanks ever so much, and we look forward to seeing you again next month. Bye.
Right, now it's time for an advert break, but special news for our Patreon supporters. If you are a Patreon, you can have a special version of the show without any adverts at all. For everybody else, here are the adverts.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Great at adventure.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Great at adventure.
Okay, now the question you have to ask yourself is, can you spare £1 a month to not watch this show without adverts? Either way, don't complain because now you've got two options. Time for Under the Visor with Spencer James Conway. Don't ride here. Ride here. Explore new horizons with Moto Freight. Proud sponsors of Under the Visor.
Hi, my name is Spencer Conway and I'm from Swaziland in Southern Africa. The name's just been changed to Eswatini. Okay, well I was born in Kenya and then I moved to Swaziland and then I stayed there until school. Then I came to Wales. I went to Atlantic College and International School, then I went to Edinburgh University, then I went back to Swaziland and then I went to the Seychelles where I was teaching for 4 years and then I decided to try and circumnavigate Africa solo and unsupported on a budget. Okay, what happened was I actually thought I'd write a book and I found out that I was pretty useless. I sent it to a whole load of publishers, but I also happened to film it. So what I did, I had a mounted camera on the front of the bike and I had a handheld Panasonic digital. Basically, I got back to England, I took the program to Travel Channel and they watched 5 minutes of it and they bought the whole series. So yeah, it was quite lucky. I wasn't actually planning on doing that. But they just said it was pretty rough and quite funny, so I was quite lucky with that. Doesn't ever make you rich, but it allowed me to pursue the next project. Okay. I basically travel without a phone, without a GPS and without a map. Some people think it's not a good idea, but what I found is it provides me with experiences that I would never have otherwise. If people tend to follow iOverlander or MapMe or something, you'll turn up at a beautiful village and you'll suddenly come across 10 GSs. And for me, it sort of ruins the vibe. I prefer to try and find back roads. For example, I've done 115,000 kilometers, about 80 of it on dirt roads. So I tend to try and find the worst roads. And I ask 4 or 5 people the route. I do have a compass. So when I start the project, I know I'm going from England to Cape Town, so I know I'm heading south. And then when I get to Cape Town, I know I'm heading north. So for example, I did 55,345 kilometers around Africa. It's supposed to be about 35. But I got lost constantly, but that's when I had the best experiences. The best thing that happened to me by far, I was in the Danakil Depression in the Sahara, and what I did was I got 10 litres of petrol on my back, I got 2 5-litre drums, and I had a 23-litre, and I rode into the desert. And I met these 3 like Berber type guys, and it was like a film. I swear to God, it's proved, it's on my program. A guy with an eye patch even actually had the bird on his shoulder, and these guys stopped with me. I didn't speak Arabic, but you know, sign language, you know how it goes, Graham. And they managed to make a meal. I hadn't seen a tree for the last 4 or 5 hours. This guy disappeared for 20 minutes, came back with a log. And they cooked up this meal, and we all stayed together. We slept on the floor, and we didn't need a tent, of course, because it's the desert. But the amazing thing was that when I woke up, they were gone, and there is no way that you could tell that they had been there. They'd buried the fire, they'd basically swept the sand, and when I looked next to where I was sleeping, there was a piece of cardboard on the ground with "thank you" written on it, stuffed in the sand. And that, like, I've already got goosebumps again. So it's those kind of, you know, you're a traveller, those kind of experiences stick with you. That is probably one of my best. The second best one was I went through the centre of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Everyone goes through Matadi, which is the coastal route. But I decided to try and go through the centre of DRC to a place called Makela de Zomba. And the road turned into a path which turned into nothing. So I had to machete my way through, and I did 11 kilometres in 10 hours. I eventually came out to a hut, and there was a border guard there, and he nearly fell off his chair, 6'4" white guy covered in mud. And no one had been there for 3 years, and he had his stamp and everything, but it had dried up. So what he did was he wrote in pen, I've still got the passport, he wrote "Spencer Conway is allowed to pass this border." I was like, yeah, right, I'm not going to get through, but I did. So, you know, just to feel quite adventure-y. The worst thing that ever happened to me, I got attacked by bandits in Kenya. On the border between Somalia and Kenya, there were 3 guys on a hill, and you know, in Africa they're so friendly, you know, everyone's waving and smiling. So I waved at these guys, and one of them just pulled up an AK, shot up the bike, the back wheel came off, the brake caliper exploded, went in my arm there, and came out the other side over here. I broke 3 ribs, came off the bike, wheel went flying down the road, so I only had the rim, electric start, got up expecting to be shot in the back, went round the corner, nothing, fell into the bushes, stayed there 15 hours in the rain, and then I walked about 20 miles to a Catholic mission. I found a German priest there, and they called the army, and the army came along, and they're all drunk as lords, and they're like, "We've got to go find these guys," but you know, it was the day before, so I was trying to say to them, it's ridiculous, they're not going to be standing there going, "We shot that guy." Anyway, we went back, they had a look around for like 20 minutes, "Oh, there's nobody here." And then on the way back, they said to me, "Oh, we want to show you something." And there was a cross on the side of the road, and they said, "Oh, that's a Chinese construction worker that got killed last week. 300 people have been killed on this road in the last year." So I was like, bloody hell. So I phoned Travel Channel, and I said, "Listen guys, you've got to put it on the website just to warn people." Now I do understand that it's there's tourism, and I don't want to ruin it. So they interviewed me on TV, radio, etc. in Kenya, but none of it went on TV, which I completely understand, because it doesn't help with tourism if people are getting shot. It was my fault. I don't want to put people off Africa. It was on the border with Somalia where they train the pirates, and I was supposed to go by convoy, but once again, you know what it's like. They spend 6 hours loading goats and all that business. So I went to the army and I said, "Can I go?" And the guy said, yeah, no problem, it's up to you. And 20 minutes later I got shot at. So it was a bad decision on my part, and it can happen anywhere, you know. So that was the worst one. Yeah, I just came back from South America. So once again, it was a circumnavigation of the whole of South America, but I decided that the 2 landlocked countries I'd also visit. So I just popped in there. So it was all 13 countries in South America. Didn't go according to plan, because I'm extremely accident prone. I'm rubbish with directions and I get lost in my own kitchen. And basically I got all the way around, which was 58,013 kilometers. I was 300 kilometers from finishing, but Venezuela wouldn't let me through the border. It's been closed for 3 years. So I did the world's longest detour. If anybody else knows a long one, let me know. It's 7,500 miles through the Amazon on the famous B319 Ghost Road, which is 886 kilometers of nothing. And then back into Ecuador, Peru, and into Colombia to finally leave, which was all great, but I managed to pick up malaria on the Ghost Road, and I rode for 14 days with the camera woman telling me that it was man flu and that she needs a real man. So I was like riding like this, feeling rather rough, ended up on the coast of Peru, collapsed in the street and put in hospital and sorted out. But it's my 5th time with malaria, so you kind of get used to it. Yeah. I'm riding a Yamaha XT660Z Tenere from 2009. It was provided by Yamaha, which is really cool. I've never ever had a new bike because I'm a pauper. So what I do is I buy bikes for like 50 quid and then do them up myself. I've never had a new bike, so I was like a kiddie at Christmas. You can imagine a new Tenere turns up. And a lot of people don't like them because they look a bit like Transformers. It's not everyone's taste. And I'm honest, it's a single cylinder, so it's quite shaky. It's not super cool for tar roads, but I aim for dirt. It's perfect for me. I'm 6'4", so it's great for the height. It's a fairly light bike, not super light, but I can pick it up myself 4 or 5 times. And well, it's not bulletproof, but it's not far off. Yeah, if you're interested, my new series probably be about 3 or 4 months, because they've got to do voiceover, graphics, music, try and cut me out of as much of it as possible. And you can follow me on spencerconway.com, and I'm also on Cheesebook and Insta Rubbish and all those other ones. All good?
Thanks, mate.
Cool.
Fantastic.
No worries.
Don't ride here. Ride here. Explore new horizons with Moto Freight. Proud sponsors of Under the Visor. So Spencer's adventures are incredible, but I've never met anybody who does a navigation without maps or GPS. Really quite unique. Now it's time for Film School with Tom, and he's doing a review of the Garmin Virb.
This is the Garmin Virb Ultra 30, and it's an action camera. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why are Garmin doing an action camera? They do GPSs, and we should really be leaving the action camera market to people like GoPro. Well, maybe Garmin has a trick up their sleeve which you might like. Now first of all, the spec. The spec happily rivals anything you're going to get with GoPro and the Hero 5. Of course, it does have some downsides and some upsides compared to that model. Of course, one of the best things about the new GoPro Hero 5 is that it doesn't need an external case. But you know what? I like external cases. I like knowing that there is something in between my camera and stuff that can damage it. I like knowing that if I drop that camera at high speed, if something smashes, it's going to be the external case, not the actual camera itself. So personally, I don't see that as a downside, especially when you're using it in rough terrain on motorcycles. Of course, like most action cameras at the moment, this records in 4K at 30 frames per second. And of course, there is a plethora of other resolutions you can film in and other frames per second. So for instance, you can film in 1080p, which is full HD, at 120 frames per second, which gives you some really, really nice slow-mos. It can actually do 240 frames per second in 720. So you're actually getting some really cool slow-mo options on this camera as well. Now this has a whole host of other features. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think I'll use most of them. It has built-in GPS, which actually means that if you're, say, doing a track day and going round and round the track, you can have a graphic up in the top corner showing you this fantastic little kind of track that you're going around and where you are on the track at any given time. That's quite cool, but personally, for me, when I'm looking at cinematic filming, it doesn't really offer me anything. Also, I'm not terribly fussed about the fact that you can voice control it. What I do like is how easy you can set it up to be used. Just one push of the button on top and you're filming. It turns on and starts recording. Push it back, turns off, stops recording. Means you're saving battery, you don't have to have it on all the time. Most cameras do this nowadays, but it's still one of my favourite features, and for me an absolute must when it comes to any action cam. Now there are a load of other things you can do with it. You can live stream to YouTube if you're kind of using it in combination with an Apple phone. It goes 40 meters underwater. It can take a 128 gigabyte memory card, and actually the battery life isn't too bad either. So what does the footage look like? Well, here's a few clips. As you can see, even though this was a bit of a dull, rainy, rubbishy day, actually it's giving you some really nice sharp imagery, some really nice depth in the colour, and all round just a really nice pleasing image. The other great thing about this is it uses the standard GoPro mount. This is a massive bonus because, let's be honest, all the best accessories on the market are GoPro setup, but this is ready for that. You can use this with any GoPro accessory because it has the standard GoPro mount. This is fantastic, and actually because it's a very, very similar size as the GoPro Hero 4, you can use things like gimbals, you can attach it to drones if you need to, anything like that. Anything that a GoPro can do, you can use this with it as well. Another fantastic feature of this is it has 3-axis image stabilization. Now this isn't a kind of mechanical gimbal, this is a digital stabilization when you're using it in anything under 4K. And actually it works really, really well and gives you much smoother images. And again, when you're on a motorcycle, this is a real benefit. However, the thing I like most about this is not the picture quality. It is the sound. It picks up the most amazing sound, far better than any action camera I have used, by far. And even when you've got the waterproof case on, the sound still feels fantastic.
There was lots of things I expected on this trip, including maybe snow, but just not within the first hour.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about going the right way? Because this is like the
Do you want to navigate?
This is like the 7th time you've had to turn us around today. Have you just thought, about going, the way?
Have you thought about doing the navigating?
Well, I would. Check this sound out. It was all recorded on the Virb, and the Virb was in its waterproof case, but still, some really fantastic audio, far, far better than any other action cam I've used. And for that alone, I can highly recommend this. It is a fantastic piece of kit.
Now it's time for bike build, and the guys are starting to get a bit more in depth with their progress.
Cue credits. Bah! Hello and welcome to this month's bike build. This month is more of an update than a full segment because we've been, rather than working on the bike, we've been working on kind of what we need to do to each bike and kind of going through lists and lists of things that we need to do. But we need your help. Firstly, we need your help to tell us what exactly you want from this segment. So do you want it to be really detailed? So for instance, if we need to remove a sheared bolt, do you want us to show how we're doing that? Or do you want it to be something that's a lot more simple, where we just kind of go, right, this is what we're doing, this is us doing it quickly, and then this is us getting the bike ready and going and testing it and things like that? Or, on the other hand, if you want that detailed stuff, is that stuff you want, but maybe in a different segment, like a segment on kind of engineering and, not really engineering, but mechanicking and stuff like that. Yeah. But let us know where you want this segment to go, and we'll try our best to make you guys happy in any way we can. However, now we're going to look at the lists that we've done. They're very short and simple. We've probably missed off stuff.
Oh, we've missed lots of stuff. This is just the bare bones of where we think we should be heading. I'm sure there are plenty of other things, and if you guys out there want to kind of, you know, put your
2 pence worth in?
2 pence worth, yeah.
Is that the saying?
I don't know.
Well,
if you want to be that cheap.
Basically, yeah, we're going to go through, if there's anything you think is different, we should change, we should add, take away, or you have specific recommendations for a product that you think could be good, please let us know.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the rally bike. So first thing on the rally bike, rally kit.
Yep, the rally kit, so we're talking nav tower, we're talking lights, the whole kind of front fairing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks awesome, but it is there for a reason.
Serves a purpose, doesn't it? There's so much electronics that go behind with the nav tower and things that, you know, it's a good way of protecting.
And of course, it's the first thing on most people's list of doing rally bikes.
But probably more importantly, for a rally bike, suspension.
Yeah.
So where are we with the suspension? I mean, what's on the bike at the moment?
Standard R stock.
Okay.
Suspension. I think it's a 265 mil height on the suspension. So
what do we need to do to the?
It needs to be taller. Okay. It needs to be stiffer. It's quite soft at the moment.
New forks and new rear unit?
No, the forks, I think we can do a bit of a freshen up. So harder springs, you know, maybe some spacers in there.
Change of oil.
Change of oil, you know, heavier weight. But again, you guys, if you have any ideas on that, let us know.
And the rear is just a whole new rear shaft.
Yeah, I think the rear would have to be a whole new setup.
Okay. Rear tank. Rear tank rather than a big safari tank like you put on an adventure bike?
Yeah, purely for the fact of distributing the weight. It's a lot easier to kind of manage the bike if the weight's nicely evenly spread, and plus it's it looks cool, especially if you go for the Mioni style tanks, you know. But yeah.
Roadbook and IMO, this is a kind of given because we want it to be a rally bike. We want to be able to take this up to Mark Molyneux at Sweet Lamb and do one of his roadbook courses where he teaches you how to use roadbook, and then we can go out and hopefully do some sort of rally using said roadbook. So that's kind of a given. Steering wheel damper. I've only really seen these on sports bikes.
Yeah, they're quite common on off-road bikes, especially rally bikes. If you're hitting the soft sands, it just keeps the bike straight.
Are they that kind of gold thing that seems?
It's like a little square box with a little dial on.
So it's not the ones you see on sports bikes with the little kind of piston.
No,
it's different to that.
No. It's purely a square box. I'm sure there are other off-road ones with the pistons, I think. But yeah,
let us know if you've got any clue about that. This one confused me. Single front disc.
I don't know. This is son of a.
Okay, so single front disc.
Yeah, this is something that I've seen lots of people do it on the 990. The removing one of the front discs because it's dual front discs.
But what's the benefit?
I don't know. Like I'm presuming it's to reduce weight.
But then reduce braking.
From what I've heard, that it doesn't reduce braking that much. But again, if you guys can shed some light on it, that would be helpful.
Okay. Rally pegs.
Yep, you're going to be standing up on the bike.
Rally seat, simple.
Yeah.
Protection. What kind of level of protection are we looking at? Because what we don't want to do is weigh down the bike. We want to keep it as light as possible.
Well, really, you're only talking about probably engine guards and the radiator kind of.
So just simple stuff. So you're protecting the really important stuff, but you're not adding huge amounts of weight.
Yeah. Whether it's aluminium or carbon fibre or, you know, there's lots of different ways.
Options,
yeah.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the adventure bike. Oh, the box is in the way. Yay! Adventure bike. Okay, so On this list, we start with Big Mother Tanks.
Big Mother tanks.
It's not a brand.
No. We'll be using the Safari tanks, which luckily I have.
You've already got.
I've already
you
got.
used to swap them over, didn't you, depending on what you were doing on your bike?
Exactly. They're about 40 litres. They're tough as anything, and we all know the 990 doesn't have the best fuel economy.
Right, okay.
So these will take you pretty much wherever you need to go.
Okay, fantastic. Reusable stuff.
Yeah, that's a bit kind of open. The reusable stuff, we're talking about oil filters and air filters.
Yeah, okay.
And again, due to my foresight in buying this bike, okay, it has a reusable oil filter and...
Foresight or luck. Did you know it had that before you bought it?
Yeah.
Did you?
No. But
Okay.
it does also have a foam filter, a reusable foam filter.
Okay.
So purely for the fact of if you're in the middle of something starn and you can't get hold of oil filters or an air filter, you know you don't have to worry about that.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. High mud guard. Now this I've seen, and it used to be a problem on the KTM 640 as well, when they had those low mud guards very close to the front wheel. When you put big knobbly tyres on, if you start going through some really sticky mud, clay type mud, it can all kind of build up, and it can either jam your wheel solid or break off the mud guard altogether.
Yeah,
so
I've seen that a few times.
just getting rid of that and putting something much higher, a bit more kind of rally style actually in terms of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Electronics. Again, this is a big one because GPS.
Yeah.
You're going to be, when you're travelling, you're going to need to charge things, phones, maybe computers, maybe cameras if you're doing a lot of filming.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you're probably going to need, they're not great batteries.
No, the batteries are pretty terrible on the 990, I have to say. And so you'd want something with quite high output. So a lithium ion one, again, reduces weight. They're much, much lighter than the standard batteries.
But more expensive, I'm guessing.
Much more expensive, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But
fingers crossed.
yeah, I mean, again, guys, if you have any kind of suggestions, especially on
recommendations, are always
good. On GPSs or anything like that, what you think should be used, then let us know.
Okay. Luggage.
Ooh.
Now this is going to be an interesting one between hard and soft luggage.
Yeah.
I've actually seen quite a lot of people using combination recently. So they're using soft luggage on the side, and then they have a metal top box, so that they can lock away the important things in there. But I think it's
I think we both have our own kind of choice on those, but we can try them both out. As a matter of fact,
I mean, the thing is, if we put luggage racks on there, then actually most soft luggage will go well on a rack anyway, or hard luggage change depending on what we feel is right.
Yep.
Suspension, again, you're going to have a huge amount of weight on this bike with this big 40-litre tanks up front, maybe big heavy panniers on the back.
Yeah. Well, once again, I go back to my amazing foresight in buying this bike. The front suspension has a 950 Super Enduro springs with spacers in it. So they're already prepped for...
Did you know that when you bought it?
That's not the point. The point is they have it.
You've just completely lucked out on this and you're trying to make out like you did a good thing. Okay. But rear, what about the rear unit?
The rear, I think it has to be a new unit. It's an old unit. I would have thought
it's probably
getting
not going to do
spring,
huge miles before it struggles.
No.
Okay.
No.
Lights.
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all said that we're not going to ride at night, and we end up riding at night.
Yeah, sometimes it can't be helped.
Yeah.
Okay. Protection.
Yeah, protection. Now, this is the thing. Usual thing.
We're not going to have huge bars when we've got.
No.
Otherwise, we're going to make it. We're going to get what is essentially a bike that everyone likes because it's a bit thinner. We're putting a massive tank on it. If we put bars on it, we're basically getting a GS 1200.
Wow, bigger than a GS. I mean, the tanks are big. Make the bike really big anyway. So sticking bars on the side of it, it's stupid. And plus, those tanks are built to last. And I've had a few knocks with them.
But we're talking about protection other else, because when you're travelling for days and days, the benefit of a rally bike is obviously you tend to do kind of maintenance on it every night. You, on a long journey, you don't want to do that, so you want to protect as much as you can.
I think you're looking at stuff like bash plates, you know, little like the oil cooler maybe, or not the oil cooler, the rear brake cylinder needs protection. There's little bits and bobs you can do.
It's quite a hardy bike though, isn't it? And when you've got if you've got metal panniers on the back or even just pannier frames, that's giving you a lot of protection.
Yeah.
Maybe hand guards.
Yeah, hand guards, just basic, I think.
Okay. Seat.
Yep, comfy seat. You
big, comfy seat for Tom's big ass. Reinforcement, again, from my big ass.
Now, the reinforcement of the rear subframe, it's not a necessity, but if you're travelling over kind of rough terrain and stuff,
you've got a lot of luggage,
and you've got luggage on the back, there is potential for the subframe to snap, and it's not a massive deal to put a reinforced subframe.
It's kind of a better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is where we are with our lists. As I said, we're sure we've missed off stuff. If guys, any recommendations, we're happy to hear them. Please get in contact, either comment on YouTube or go to our website and let us know. Give us as much feedback and as help as you can get, and also again let us know where you kind of want this segment to go, because we will try our best to accommodate. That's it. Thanks for listening to our little update, and we will see you next month, where hopefully the adventure bike will be back on the road.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
See you then, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
That's such a dick move, but I love it.
Cue credits. Bah!
Well, that was the show. As always, we hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to spend the next few hours just sucking up the gorgeous looks of this motorbike, and we'll see you next month.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Great at adventure.